Today's the day we get to work on this Heartland fuel. Try to get some of the units out of the yard. We'll be doing H-column assembly. And I always order the, well, not always, but most of the times I will order the, just like we did in the shop, fully assembled with shipping angle, which is a different part number for if you're gonna get it in the tube, okay? So just showing you some of the setup right now, and then we'll get to work when I come back. So you're gonna need something to support the room. It's gonna have to be, you're gonna have to lift it up. So this is my system. I'm using a lift table. This is a low power, you know, you can use a regular jack, but you're not lifting it that much. And these tables have a limit on what they can lift. So if you're doing a really huge room, maybe you use a jack on each side because, but this is a smaller room. So I can use just my lift table and I just can put it in the center. But if you have like a super slide, like on that Class A Thor Aria that I did the H-column assembly on, you're gonna have to do one side at a time, and then you can just put it on close to one side. This room is small, so I just put it in the center. I'm not gonna have to move it because I'm doing both sides, obviously. This is an inverted system, and we're changing it over to a standard system. So there we go. Now, you can't do it with it out like this. It needs to be in about 8 inches, but I'm just showing you the setup. I have my lift table here. I can just pull the trigger, let this down, and then when I let it in 8 inches, I can get the rest. So obviously this is pretty tall, so I'm gonna have to have ladders. So I got my ladders over there, and I'll be bringing the ladders over. So this is the initial setup. I need to make sure I got everything to do it. If you've never seen how an H-column comes, and you don't have to get it like this, guys, but I get them both ways. I typically order them like this, especially if it's an insurance job. I'm gonna definitely get it like this. If it's a customer pay and I'm trying to save them a little money, depending on how it works out, because this makes it faster. So sometimes the money that they may save in getting it unassembled, they may lose while you're putting it together, setting the timing and everything like this. The timing, everything is set from the factory. So this is how I order them. I have a Lippert dealer account. I order them like this, and I get them freight on an 18-wheeler. So you can see that's the H-column, you guys, because remember what I said. You want to run this room in, you want to have about 8 inches in. You see where that 8 inches is falling at? So chances are either this screw or this screw, you're not going to be able to get, or it's going to be hard to get to one of them because one of them's going to land right here in the wall, okay? So if you go by Lippert's instructions, they're going to tell you start with the room all the way in. Now, if you're catching this like me, you know, you got called out, you see that there's a problem, this thing's going to fail, and it's not already failed. I mean, if it's already failed, you're going to have to deal with it wherever it's at. You take the motors out, push it in, whatever. But if the room is still halfway functional, bring it out, measure your 8 inches, and then get rid of those problem screws. There's going to be another screw at the end. You'll be able to get to that one because it's the furthest one. So these are the 2 screws that we want to go ahead and get out while it's all the way out. Use a double square bit. Let's see if we can pull this one out. So that's a double square, and it's gonna fit in there the best. Deep engagement, and we're gonna be hitting all the contact points, and we can get that out. All right, so that's what we're gonna be using. We're only doing one side at a time. We're doing one side at a time, guys, and then we'll move on. Now, when you're doing an H-column assembly, there's a float side and a fixed side. Make sure when you're putting this back together, the float side's on the float side and the fixed side's on the fixed side. The float side's gonna have plastic rivets, and the on like the dry block assembly, and the fixed side's gonna have regular rivets. When we get to that point, I'll show you, and I'll show you which one is the float and which one's the fixed. Okay, so it's important to have those in the right spot. So like I said, I'm gonna get up top, do those, then we're gonna run the room in 8 inches and see what kind of access we have on the inside. And the reason we're only running it in 8 inches is so that we can tilt that whole assembly out and get the new one in. We gotta be able to get it out and get the next one in. All right, and before we, after we get our 8 inches, then we'll put our jack back up to support the weight of the room while we're taking out the H-column assembly, which is supporting some of the weight of the room. The roller's doing most of the work. The room really sitting on the rollers, but it also is sitting a little bit on the V-rollers, not much. All right, let's get at it, guys. Pretty good, ain't I? All right, so that's the 8 inches. So at this point, it'd be tough for you to get that screw, especially if it was, and you never know how it's gonna land. If it was in a little more, sometimes these ones, you don't want to be fighting with them when they're like in the middle of this. That's why I go ahead and take them out. I just go ahead and take them out. So that's the purpose. That's that protect tip, guys. That's what you want to do to save yourself from fighting with this so you can make time. So on this side, you can see that those are out. So you can see it's about 4 or 5 inches of space in between the fasteners. So you know that this one, the H-column assembly, which is probably about 2.5 inches wide, it's not going to be obstructing your fasteners. And you see how we can get to that one on the bottom, and we can get to these two on the top. All right, guys, so I got set up on this side. Now, one thing that I neglected to mention is that this is an inverted system. We're switching it out with a standard system because the inverted system has all kind of problems. And when the shoes fail on it, like they're doing on this one, when the shoes fully break, this thing comes apart on people. So I went ahead and removed the 3 screws, 1 screw from the end, the ones that would be causing me problems on both sides, so that after I get my lift set up, I can do both sides, because I have to do both sides anyway. And I recommend whenever you're doing an H-column, you need to do both sides. It's going to come with both sides. You can't just order one side. They make these to order, and when they make it, they're going off the V number. They're going to give you the most updated version, and everything might not fit, match up with the other side. So leave the last on the very end. I have to remove all the fasteners. We have to do a procedure with the motor to bring this out. So we want to leave the last screw in so the tracks can stay in place as we bring out this column. So we want to stop there when we get to the last set of fasteners, and then we want to remove all the fasteners on the outside. On the bottom, these are the fasteners. They go all the way to the inside. These are machine screws. So we'll go on the inside and see what we need to remove from the inside, if any. Some units have fasteners on the outside and the inside, especially if they have supporting brackets, which is nice, especially for the larger rooms, because these things will twist and cause problems. And how you mitigate, because the H-column is just thin aluminum, and some of them have brackets on it. This is a little tiny room. I'm done having brackets on it. But here's where that machine screw is going through. Help give it a little more stability. You see, right there. That's that number 3 Phillips. That's the ones I just showed you. So that's something they're using, which is smart. I have my hats off to Grand Design for doing it like that. They put these into the actual framing of the camper, and they're securing the H-column there, and that's going to help mitigate the twisting of the H-column. All right, so after you go all the way up and down, you get you a nice little gap. So you freed that seal, and you see how this top seal is connected with this side one? Well, that's got to get loose because you got to pull the side one out. We're going to end up cutting that. But when you put the new one in, you got to glue this back. So it's going to be super glue. And when you pull that up, you can see the wires for the motor. Now, like I said, all of this seal comes with the new H-Column assembly. There's a motor retention screw. We don't have to worry about that. What we want is this, we want that harness right there. So I'm gonna take my Nip-X or some needle nose if I can't get it by hand, and I'm just gonna pull that out. Definitely don't want to damage the harness. We just want the connector out of there. And I'm just pulling on the motor side of the wires. Let me get my right hand over here. I am right-handed. That's what I want right here. You see? That's all I wanted. I just want that, and I have a little homemade tool, and I'm going to I'm just gonna cut that off with my razor because I need this to be free to come out. All right. All right, so this is my little rig. I basically took a old cable that I had to replace anyway. You can buy a new one if you know, it's just making a tool so that it can have the female connector for the motor. And then I just use a couple Wagos, and I have it coming to a couple spade connectors because I use this with one of my drill batteries. And I just put the positive and the negative in here so that I can actuate the motor, and it's gonna pull this down the track if you put it in the right direction. In order for that to work, you need to block this up with some wood. Typically, if I know I'm going to do this in the field, I'll just take me along like a 6-foot section 2x4, and I keep saws and stuff on the truck, and I just measure and cut it. But while I'm at the shop here, I just take wood I got laying around, and I get to use bigger wood because I like to have it shored up really well. And yeah, so now I'll just connect this to my drill battery, and I want it to pull in so that it will force the room to bind on the blocks, and that will force the H-column to come out on the tracks. So I'll see if I could do this while I got you guys going here. And be careful when you're doing this because you don't want to short out your battery, because if you touch them, then or if you have a bad motor, it's going to kill your there's a little safety feature in here. It's going to kill your battery. You have to take it apart and resolder that part if you know how to do that. If not, you'll just be buying another battery more than likely. So if I'm not certain about the state of the motor, I will use that Mighty Max, that little cheap battery. It's a little cheap lithium ion battery pack. So basically what I got to do is I got to bump this to see if it's coming out in the right direction, and that's going to determine whether and I'll know because I'll be watching the room as I'm doing this to see if it's trying to pull the room in or push the room out. So I'm just going to give it a quick bump. That's trying to push the room out, so that's wrong. So I want to take it the opposite way. And all right, so this is the way I need to go with it. And what's going to happen is, you see, it's pulling the H-column out. See? And see, the room is not able to go in because it's blocked off with the it's blocked off with the wood up there. All right, so this is where your jack comes into play to help get a little bit of that weight off of that lower edge of this guy so he can pop out, because right now it's just kind of hanging up on whatever they got, gunk or whatever. So I'm gonna finish bumping that out, but you can see what's happening, and I'll get a pry bar and see if I can pop that bottom end out, because it should be out by now. and move on to the next step. All right, guys, so I just took this old Craftsman. Found this thing in the Airstream when I was a dealer tech. On a trade-in, you find tools and stuff. Even in new campers, some of the dealer techs, the factory techs leave their tools in there and you get to keep them. I just went back here with that pry bar, because don't keep jacking up on the room. You know what I'm saying? That's not good. It's stuck because it's hitting this bottom section, and it's hitting on some of the adhesive or whatever they got, how they cut this material right here. It's hanging up on that. So what you do is you just stick your pry bar back there and give it a pop, bracing it on the seal so you don't scratch or hurt the camper. And it just came right out with not much force, and it popped out. Because if the top is out and the bottom is in, that's it. You don't want to keep trying to use the motor to do it. Even though you're throwing all this crap away, you don't want to you don't want to do it like that. Just pop it out with this right here, and it'll come right out. And now, as you can see, your H-column is 100% free, and we can fully disconnect the rest of our screws and tilt this out to get it out. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. We got 1, 2, 3 fasteners on the very ends, and then we got 3 on the inside. We're going to get rid of those, and then we're going to use our sheet metal skinning tool to break the seal. And when I'm breaking the seals, guys, I'm going to the screw location, and that's where the most pressure was, so that's the stickiest part. So that's where I'm prying from. So that is the next step. All right, don't worry about the wood. Once you get the new one in, you just bump the room out a little bit, and that'll take the pressure off so you can get the wood out. Yeah, I prefer having a much wider brett. So even if I'm using 2x4s, I make it like a T, so that I'm not putting a lot of pressure on just one little spot. I like to spread it out. So I've had good success doing it that way. So that's the way that I do it. All right, and you can see that there's butyl tape that goes along. So make sure the new one is prepped the same way. So I'm gonna bump the H-column out some more, and I'm gonna stop it about right here, and then I'm gonna get my screws out. Thank you, Jesus. All right, guys. So this little tray, it's like to keep the water from running in. Some water's gonna get past some way, somehow. And that's what that little tray, it used to have a more of an aggressive, you know, like it used to come up a little more like that. But that's kind of what the bottom of that H-column assembly was sitting on. So it came out hard. So you know you're gonna have to kind of pry it in when you get the new one. So this is what I'm talking about, like this lip right here. And this isn't cut all the way straight either. You can see maybe they were shaving some off, and like right there, this corner is a lot lower than this corner. So that's probably what was hanging up. Yeah, boom, you hear it? And then I'm just prying that, getting my little, this tool is amazing, guys. It's a sheet metal skinning tool, and that's what I want. I'm starting right here where I have a natural gap, and then after I get it going, I'm just going to the screw locations and I'm prying it out. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab the whole assembly, and I'll see if I can get it. All right. This is the assembly that's taken out. It has some sticky backing stuff. It's not really sticky, but it's grippy, and that's what you're freeing up. See, the motor, everything comes out, and the new one is the same way. All right, let's get the genie back in the bottle. Remember when I was saying like they keep updating these things and changing stuff? Which is why I don't like to try to change parts, especially when it has a lot of different stuff wrong. So one thing that they've changed is the shaft. So this is an aluminum shaft. It has that cross pattern, and they've gone to a steel hexagon shaft that is stronger, and they normally would use these on the high torque rooms, which normally be your larger rooms. You see shafts like this on slim racks all the time. So they've gone to using that on the Shwinteks, which means your coupler will be different and your spur gears will be different because they all both have to use this shaft. All right, so they did us a favor by putting this way at the end to where you can't really get a drill in there to get to them. So I'm going straight on, taking these fasteners out. And when I get to this one, I gotta either try to turn my drill way off center, which is gonna strip out the bolts, or I gotta use something else. So this is where, like, I bought that bit ratchet for stuff like this. And this isn't really even a bad one. Sometimes it's much worse because you're on the facing a wall and there's nothing. So like with this Milwaukee, I can I still gotta tilt it to the side like the DeWalt. And with the shorter bit, I might be able to get it, but when I get to this one down here, there's no room for the longer one, and the short one, because of the size of the head, as you can see, it's not lining up. So put the short bit in and go after it. See, the head is too big. The bit is offset from the head by like a ½ inch or more. So that's the most you can get because the head is right there. Well, this is in deeper than that. So again, I'm gonna end up trying to angle it, strip out my fastener, or I gotta use something else. All right, so that's when you have a bit ratchet, like I just recently bought this one, you can just take your snap-on or whatever bit ratchet you got, compact bit ratchet. See, because the head's smaller, you can get straight onto it. See? And then you can work that out. And like I said, this is not even really a bad one, because normally when you run in that situation, this is all the way to the wall and you're already doing a little bit of acrobatics just to get to it. But having something like a bit ratchet, a good one, that you can put pressure on so you can break that initial torque. Not like that's the problem with the Icon one. If you put pressure on it, it pushes the bit all the way through the thing. You got other people that make them like Blue Point, I think Vim Tools, and theirs don't do that. They got a little ring on the back so the bit don't push out from the back. But that's where your bit ratchet comes in handy. Now I got a power bit ratchet, and this is what I typically go to for stuff like that. And this is what I've been using to get all the rest of them out. It has that same small head profile like that manual bit ratchet, but in the power form factor to where I can go straight on to the fastener without and I can get it out without damaging my fastener, because I need to reuse these. So that's what I use to get them out. I use a snap-on power bit ratchet. But if you have a power bit ratchet that has a really compact head like this one, the head's not much bigger. It'd be nice if they made it same size as a 1/4 inch if they can do that. But yeah, that's what I use to get that, because you're not getting your compact impact driver in there. You're not getting the M12 right angle impact in there. And you're definitely not getting no full size impacts in there. So you're going to be using a hand tool, a bit ratchet, or if you have one of these long neck power bit ratchets, you can use that. It works pretty good. But the bit ratchet fits the best as far as having it square with the fastener.